The Abyss Sibling is not the traveler's twin. I know, this is going to be very hard to prove, but I have my reasons for believing this. At the end of the 3.2 Archon Quest, we got some unexpected traveler lore. We found out that we were the 4th descender in Teyvat, and our sibling is not a descender like us. They belong to Teyvat. Obviously, the Abyss siblings' information being recorded in Irminsul and their identity being different from what we believed is not enough to prove that this isn't the twin that we're looking for. But there are other things that we already know that might suggest otherwise. For the convenience of addressing these two, let's assume Aether is our traveler and Lumine is the Abyss sibling. Don't get me wrong, my traveler in game is Lumine, but with all the promotional material in Genshin being this way, it just makes explaining a little simpler. So, for you to understand and believe my theory, I need to go into some detail regarding Aether and Lumine's journey in Teyvat. During the first We Will Be Reunited quest in 1.4, Aether reveals that when they arrived in Teyvat, his first memory was Lumine waking him up in the meteorite and telling him that the destruction of Khaenri'ah has plunged Teyvat into chaos and that they should leave immediately. So at this point, Lumine already had an idea of what was going on in Khaenri'ah and Teyvat. This means two things. Lumine woke up before Aether, long enough to grasp the situation she was in, and as Paimon asks in the quest itself, how long before Aether did Lumine wake up? This difference in time that we speak of could be anything. It could be a few days, a month, or it could be 500 years. See, when I first did this quest, I thought that the twins arrived exactly when the destruction of Khaenri'ah was taking place. But the reason I believe this is because Aether said that this was his first memory. But he also said that he was asleep before then. So him waking up isn't exactly the right timestamp for when they arrived. What we do know for sure is when they decided to leave Teyvat and were confronted by the sustainer of heavenly principles. If we are to believe that Lumine woke up way before Aether did, she would have had the chance to travel Teyvat for the first time, an outlander just like Aether, able to manipulate the elements without a vision. Someone who got involved with the people she met and helped them in any way that she could. Now what Lumine did in her journey is pure speculation, but there has to be a reason why Lumine feels so much for Khaenri'ah and its people, right? After all, she calls Khaenri'ah the homeland she hopes to revive. So, how did Lumine come to care for Khaenri'ah so much? Did she sympathize with a civilization treated unfairly by the gods? Did she witness something about the cataclysm that changed her as a person? And most importantly, how did she become the princess of the Abyss? If we think about it, would the Abyss Order accept Lumine as their leader if she simply told them that she was on their side? Lumine isn't an ally to them. She's their leader. She travels with ruin guards, Abyss mages report to her, Abyss lectors accompany her, she can travel through Abyss portals just like Dain can. Remember, Aether couldn't travel through the portal. Does this prove Lumine is from Khaenri'ah? It could prove it, but what about Aether's memories? Aether and Lumine came to adventure and journey through a new world. They traveled through many worlds before this. Even if something was wrong with Aether's memories, as a descender, he wouldn't have false memories of a sibling and their travels, right? I think the Lumine that came to Teyvat with Aether and the Lumine who is the princess of the Abyss are two different people. Let me speculate a timeline for my theory. Lumine woke up before Aether, slightly before the cataclysm, interacted enough to both understand the world and nation that she was in, but also long enough for the people of Khaenri'ah to see her powers that defied the rules of their world. Now, we do know that Khaenri'ah was the nation where the art of Khaenri'ah was developed, which eventually also led to their destruction during the cataclysm. But Khaenri'ah was simply a way to create life. The alchemist Gold's desire to create powerful creatures is what led Khaenri'ah to its sad demise. What do you think would have happened if a nation as ambitious as Khaenri'ah were to meet an otherworldly being who had abilities that they could not explain, would they not try to create a similar powerful being? That is what I believe is the identity of the Abyss Princess. In a world with synthetic humans and puppets, would that be so hard to believe? But the fact that they can do this isn't enough to prove it. How would it explain Abyss Lumine having memories of Aether? And more importantly, when did this happen? Now, soon after the real Lumine spent time in Khaenri'ah, the cataclysm started to take place. She realized what was happening, rushed to wake up Aether, and told him that they needed to leave immediately. We do know that they couldn't leave, thanks to the sustainer of heavenly principles who separated them. If the Lumine that exists in Teyvat right now is not the real one, then where is the real Lumine? We witnessed the first encounter between the twins and the sustainer at the beginning of the game. We know that the sustainer is a very powerful being because she was able to quite calmly fight both twins who were at their prime, wings and all. But do we really know the extent of her power? She said she wished to end the traveler's journey. So why didn't she just end them? Was it that she didn't want to do this, or that she couldn't? It is possible that it would have taken too much power for her to defeat both siblings, so she decided to defeat one. Now, I'm not suggesting that she killed the real Lumine. I think the real Lumine went through a fate just like ours. But the only difference is, we woke up after 500 years. The real Lumine could have been captured, sent to another world, or is probably still asleep in a place that no one knows about. This is what I think happened. But what about the Abyss Lumine? What is her journey? The reason I believe that Abyss Lumine is a different person is because of the time of her journey with Dain. When we meet Abyss Lumine for the first time in 1.4, she shows her disapproval of us being there with Dain, who she knew and traveled with until she found out that he failed to protect Khaenri'ah, and now she blames him for its destruction. Why is this relevant? Lumine is the princess of the Abyss now. Dain has never stood with the Abyss. He doesn't approve of their mission or their methods. And the journey that they took together has to have happened after the cataclysm. Why? Because the way Lumine explained her disdain for Dain, it seems to have been a betrayal to her. If she already knew that Dain was to blame for Khaenri'ah's downfall, why would she travel with him? And if Dain met the real Lumine before the cataclysm or during, wouldn't he already know who she is? So according to my theorized timeline, Abyss Lumine woke up without all her memories. At this point, she believed that she is the real Lumine because she is the one with false memories. With how Ruktevta was erased from Teyvat in a way that not even Nahida remembers her, I think it is possible that this happened. The Abyss Sibling traveled with Dain looking for her powers, her brother, and was hoping to find out what led her to this journey. But at the end of the journey, what she did find out was her true identity. She realized that she was not who she believed she was. Her actual homeland was Khaenri'ah. Distraught by the fate that her homeland went through, she decided to lead the Abyss to fulfill the cause that they were fighting for, hoping to revive Khaenri'ah and its people. But why was the Abyss Lumine created? Let me remind you of a very important operation of the Abyss Order, the Loom of Fate. When we first find out about this in patch 1.4, Paimon asks if this is a fate-weaving machine. According to the talisman that Dain reads, he finds out that the Abyss Order planned to create a mechanized god by taking the eye of the first field tiller, also known as Ruined Gods now, into the defiled upside-down statue and then attach Osial's limbs to it. They believed if they did this, they could create a god which would topple the divine thrones of Celestia. So the aim of the Loom of Fate is to create a godly being that can achieve this goal of theirs. Well, if I continue this line of thought, Lumine would be this creation, modeled after the real Lumine who they knew was very powerful. But I think differently. This person that they believe will change the threads of fate is not Lumine, it's Aether. From the beginning of this journey, we have been looking for our sibling. That remains our main motive to journey the world of Teyvat. Even when we finally meet the sibling that we are looking for, she tells us she already journeyed to this world and has learned the truth of this world, and that when we will reach the end, we will learn it too. But why won't she just tell us the truth? Yeah, the story would probably end at this point, but that's not what I'm trying to say. She didn't tell us and asked us to see this until the end. Ideally, knowing the truth of the world is good enough motivation to keep going. And as we explore Teyvat and its nations, we keep getting more powerful. But is that enough for Aether to keep going? No. He still continues this journey to find his sister. Now, if the Abyss Order knew that there was another descender in Teyvat who was looking for his sister, whose location they had no clue about, and they also knew that by the end of his travels, he would possibly have gained all his powers that would make him strong enough to change the fate that they went through, wouldn't they create the reason for his journey to keep going? I had always thought it was so interesting that Aether found out so early in the story that Lumine was the princess of the Abyss. But it could have been intentional, because now not only does Aether look for his sister, but also the truth of the world that she speaks of. He feels betrayed and confused, but still wishes to know why she chose this path. Another thought that I had after the Archon Quest's revelations about the Descenders was, if the Abyss Lumine is not the real Lumine, then she could be one of the Descenders. The reason why the Fatui would not have any record of this was because she was traveling during and before the Cataclysm. Also, it can be speculated that the Fatui found out about the Traveler's status as Descender during the 1.1 Unreconciled Stars event. Scaramouche was sent to investigate the meteorites, maybe to look for Descenders. The Abyss siblings' identity and motives continue to be shrouded in mystery. But at the end of the journey, will we be reunited with our sibling, bearing the truth of this world? Or will we find ourselves all alone, unable to change the fate of Teyvat? Thank you so much for watching the entire video. Do let me know your own thoughts and theories about the Archon Quest, Lumine's identity, and the truth of this world. See you in the next video. Bye-bye.